Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everybody. My name is Febriana from Galuh University, West Java, Indonesia. I would like to deliver my paper presentation entitled The Effectiveness of Jigsaw Cooperative Learning on Reading Comprehension of Analytical Exposition Text, a mixed method at the 11th grade of 1 of SMA in Singapore, Tasikmalaya. In this paper is divided into 5 chapters. They are first, introduction, second, literature review, third, research methodology, fourth, result and findings, and last is discussion. Introduction contains of background of study, research questions, purposes of study, variables, hypothesis, significance of the study, scope of the study, definition of key term, and research report organization. And literature review consists of a review of reading comprehension, a review of cooperative learning, a review of jigsaw, and a review of analytical exposition text. And research methodology contains a research design, research participant, research site, research procedures, data collection and analysis technique. Last is ethical consideration. Let's move on to the background of study. Why did the researcher focus on that topic? Because first, reading skill is a very important aspect, because by reading, people can get knowledge of all of aspects from all of over the world. And second, students don't like reading because they thought that reading is a very complicated skill, so they don't like it. Third, the monotonous technique of teaching reading. Not all of the teachers use the interesting and effective technique of teaching reading, so the students don't have the motivation or interested in learning reading, so they not active in the classroom. Last, students got a low score not only in daily exam, but also in UN national exam. And also, there's a gap from the previous researchers. They didn't focus on reading skill achievement of using jigsaw cooperative learning of analytical exposition text. So that's why the researchers did the study. In this study, there are 2 research questions. First, does jigsaw technique have any effective and on-reading comprehension of analytical exposition text? Second, how do the participants in experimental group respond toward jigsaw cooperative learning instructions after the treatment? And the purpose of the study was to examine that jigsaw technique have any effective on reading comprehension of analytical exposition text. Second, the participants in experimental group respond toward jigsaw cooperative learning instruction after the treatment. In this study, there were 2 variables. First, independent variable was the effectiveness of jigsaw cooperative learning, and dependent variable was reading comprehension of analytical exposition text. And talking about significance of study, first, theoretically, as a reference to other researchers. Second, practically pedagogically, as a strategy to learning teaching process. And third, professionally encourage the teachers to transform the traditional teaching technique. Study of literature. What is reading? Reading, according to Harris and Hodges 1995, is the student's ability to understand the information presented in a reading text. How about the cooperative learning? According to Johnson et al. 1994, is the instructional use of small groups. Students work together to maximize their own and each other's learning. And jigsaw. Jigsaw, according to Slavin 1985, there's kind of groups which students work in a small group. They are divided into home group and expert groups to share what they have learned. And last, analytical exposition, according to Sudarwati and Gerard Wigner, is elaborate the researcher's idea about the phenomenon surrounding to persuade the readers. Research methodology. The study conducted in 17th until 20th April 2017. It used mixed method and took place at one of SMA in Singaparna. And research participants were students at class 11 Science 1 and 11 Science 2. And research questions were achievement test and questionnaire. And research procedures. First, the teacher chose classes of experimental group and contact group, and then gave praise to both of them. Did treatment to experimental group using jigsaw cooperative learning, and then gave post-test to both of the groups, and gave questionnaire to the experimental group, and collected data, analyzed it, and took the results. Here is a graphic of analysis and experimental of achievement test of experimental group. As we can see on the experimental graph that for the pretest, the biggest score was 80. There were 3 students who got that score. And for the lowest score was 20, and there was a student who got that score. For the post-test, the biggest score was 85, and there were 3 students who got that score, and the lowest score was 30. There was a student who got that score. So we can conclude that the student who increased their score were 84%, and the student who didn't increase their score were 16%. And here's the graphic of analysis and interpretation of achievement tests of control group. As shown on the graph, we can interpret that for the pretest, the biggest score was 80. There was a student who got that score, and the lowest score was 25, and that a student who got that score. And for post-test, the biggest score was 85, and there was only student who got that score, and the lowest score was 25, and that a student who got that score. And we can conclude that the students who increased the score were 52.17%, and the students who didn't increase their score were 47.83%. Here is the result of achievement analysis. First, the mean of experimental group was 11. The mean of control group was 2.61. The total score of experimental group 7.875. Total score of control group 2. T-test or T-observed 2.41. Degree of freedom 46, and T-critical was 2.021. So we can conclude that the T-test value is more than T-critical value, means hypothesis 1 is accepted. And for the second results of questionnaire analysis, as the graph shown that there were 2 colors. The green one represented the students who gave the positive responses, and the blue one indicates that students who gave the negative responses. And the students who gave positive responses for question 1 were 72%, and for question 2, 92%, for question 3, 84%, for question 4, 100%, and for the last question, 92%. And the students who gave the negative responses for question 1 were 28%, for the question 2 were 8%, question 3 were 16%, question 4 were 0%, last question were 8%. So we can conclude that most of the students gave positive responses toward jigsaw cooperative learning. Ladies and gentlemen, based on the result, we can take conclusion from this study. The conclusion were: first, jigsaw technique have any effective on reading comprehension of analytical exposition texts, and second, the participants in the experimental group gave positive responses toward jigsaw cooperative learning instruction after the treatment. So that's all my paper presentation. Thank you very much for your attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.